Thank you very much, Henry. Henry, you have raised the point. Ladies and gentlemen, when I began this story, I told you it is not only the Zimbabwe story that Qatar has missed in Africa. I told you there are countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo, and I told you the peace talks. You see, Henry himself from Congo has told you. Khartoum, the generals called me and said, Qatar are the most deadly people. They went to conspire with ICC. They want Bashir to be sent to ICC to be imprisoned in a cold room in ICC. They go to Egypt. That's why Egypt picked one of their, there is still a journalist detained in Egypt of Qatar for how many years? All of us journalists made signatures for him to be released because of bad reporting. And this type of reporting, which people are glorifying here, that Chinono and so have done good things. Blinks is saying there are very good things which he did. Which good things are these? Which we don't see. I don't see anything good that has come out. The only thing that has come out here is a narrative which is sensational. It doesn't tell us what do we do with this. If there was anything wrong, what do we do with the documentary? The documentary is just to make Zimbabwe to be hated, but it doesn't help us because there's no gold that was stolen in Zimbabwe. It should have told the Zimbabwe government that seal the loopholes. People are avoiding tax when they declare or when they come at the airport, when they take this gold. That would be better. But you are not telling us anything. What do we do with the documentary? There's no solution here. There's nothing that the documentary is talking about. Now they are cooking a second documentary, which they want to put on people and maybe cook others. And they say, we got this one with millions of dollars banked here, did this. This is all crap. To earn a living and get a few dollars, greenbacks, return to Zimbabwe and build a house and sit with your legs up when you have demodernized your own country. It's not very good. It's not very good at all. Let's be factual. Yes, we know there might be mistakes. Yes. But what do these mistakes lead us to? Where? What do we do with the story? You have given us a story that we don't want to utilize. What is that story going to help the world? Kamlesh has licenses to buy gold. Kenyan government is not looking for Mr. Kamlesh for having bought gold or stolen gold. So what will it help us? Zero. Ladies and gentlemen, I think my co-host, are you still there? My co-host is
No.
not talking. Where are you?
When you get angry, Dr. Matsanga is very
I
it's
am
very
not
difficult
angry.
to talk over it. Yes,
I
now
am
you're
now
calm.
softened down
E-
because I'm a
Soft as wool.
revolutionary. I talk
Yes, you're
like
soft as wool now.
you have never been addressed by Nyerere. Nyerere can get
No.
very angry when he has a point. When he was addressing us in 1978, the last meeting he was telling us, I was a young man about 18, when he said, we want now to go and kill the snake. And that snake was Idi Amin. Nyerere was angry, very angry. So revolutionaries talk like that. Did you ever hear Joshua Nkomo? Have you ever seen Mugabe when it's tough? People who have their mind, you speak out. You don't care. I don't care. On this question of gold, of whose gold was it? The gold belongs to people of Zimbabwe. It is not belonging to any group that has sanctioned someone to go and earn a living by investigating. No, no. Show us the crime committed. Were people killed before the gold was taken out? Then the world will take. Who was next now?
It's we're going to hear from Edwin, then we're going to move to Senzo. We're going to give our guest speakers an opportunity to rebut some of the contributions that we've received. So we will hear from Bashona and Vahombe. Then we'll move to Padare and Truths for a second round from our speakers. Edwin, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
100%.
I'm glad that I'm actually speaking after Dr. Matsanga, because I really wanted to speak after him, to have an exchange with him on a few items. Doctor, how are you today? I like how you speak like real
I'm
revolutionary.
listening.
Now, question number one that I wanted to present to you as a Zimbabwean, and it's something that I actually discussed. I'm from Rwanda. Something I discussed with my Zimbabwean friends living here. How else would Zimbabwe have survived and lived on the world map under sanctions for over 2 decades in this situation? In reference to that documentary, because put Zimbabwe in my hands, honestly speaking, and I'm running it, and I have people to feed, how else would I have gone about it? I would do everything in my means to make the people survive. So I wouldn't, my own opinion, I wouldn't condemn Zimbabwe. Whether it's true or not, I wouldn't condemn Zimbabwe for having done it. Because it's a country that has people that must survive under sanctions, unreasonable sanctions, and they had to leave. So how would they have survived? That's my whole understanding of the first part of the documentary and the last part of the documentary. By the way, did any of you realize that the position of Zimbabwe was put in the last seconds of the video in written script, more like subtitles, at the end for just a few minutes, that this and this person.
That is true. That is true.
So why I'm trying to buy into the whole debate, how it transpired. Why is it that you capitalize on showing the evil of Zimbabwe, but the one you're demonizing, you don't give him a platform at that real time to defend themselves? I'm a journalist. I know how this game is played. You don't give them their platform to defend themselves. I really think there was a calculated move to blackmail Zimbabwe for a number of reasons. One of them being Commonwealth, as you said. I'm going to get on that. I don't know whether my time is running out, but
You have 1 minute left.
doctor, you really need to manage your temper a little bit. Sometimes when we have disagreements, I don't think you should take it far to demonize the entire country because one person has said something bad that you disagree with. Because I will tell you, take for example, Rwanda is lobbying for $800 million for rural electrification in Zimbabwe. And why is that happening? It's because of the South-South cooperation. Because Zimbabwe is under sanction, no one wants to help Zimbabwe. So the only person that can help Zimbabwe is Africa, right? So it only requires Africans to stand up and say, okay, this is a brother who needs help. So let's do something. How many countries in Africa have actually pledged to do something for Zimbabwe when Zimbabwe is under sanction? We need to question that. So Kagame stepped out and said, okay, well, minus the whole Western hot-headed whatever, let me use my connections to lobby for however much it is, however much it will connect. 800 million. It's on record, by the way. It's the tweet that I just tweeted it for people to go on my timeline and see it. They can verify that it's correct information. Now, also Rwanda happens to be chairing the Commonwealth. I wanted the reason I'm saying this, I want you to separate the previous speaker from Rwanda to be treated him as himself, for me to be treated me as myself against Rwanda, against the whole country, right? That's my whole input. Doctor, over to you.
Edwin, I am a great friend of Paul. We were in the same training, only that we were in different. Paul was in Fronasa, I was in Chikosi Malum. We are great friends. I was not meaning anything. There are so many people from Rwanda who like me. Even Paul himself likes me. He's the only president on the continent of Africa when he sees me in AU. When he's entering the hall, he stops and says, can I say hi to Dr. Matsanga? We chat for minutes before he goes in. He's my friend for a long time. I admire things that he does for Africa. The way he went to silence the war in Cape Delgado, 100%. That's very good for me. Very good. He did timely action because terrorists through Qatar again had arrived there. He did a great job. But some, we have been hammering each other with some. Whenever I put a platform on DRC Congo, and I support, when I come in to support the commanders, I want the commander, some of those commanders of M23 are my friends. They know me by name, and they send messages on my platform, and they say they want to speak. Paul has been making very negative analysis, as if he's a stooge of the Western Hemisphere. That is all why I reacted that way. But I am not saying anything wrong about Rwanda. Rwanda is a good example of a good Africa that we are seeing today. I like the place. I like the people. I like the type of tampering democracy with some tough regulations. That's why you cannot throw rubbish litter on the streets of Rwanda and walk free. You have got to pick it, put it in the bin. The rest of us, Africa and Uganda, where we even spit on the streets when somebody is behind you and the saliva goes on that person. Rwanda, to me, is a very good example of Africa. And I want it to be you take it from here, Edwin, that it was my war is with Sam every day on several platforms. We have been clashing. I don't know which side he belongs to. So honestly, we have been clashing. When he comes up, he talks of sides. Even on Wandera's platform, we have clashed. I don't know whether he's pro. Which one is he? The Rwandese are very straight like you are. You have seen the problem of Zimbabwe. What would Zimbabwe do today? No, you have blocked it from selling its diamonds officially. What can they do? They need money. They need money for medicine. They need money for building roads. They need money for buying textbooks for schools. They need money for building schools, for classrooms, for children. And they have their minerals. And you have
And they're
told
not
them
going
not to
to eat
sell
the
the
minerals.
minerals.
They're not going to eat the minerals. They
They
must
can't
sell them.
eat the minerals. Yes.
Yeah.
So they have to do what they have done. Above all, there is no report, no criminal report anywhere in Interpol that says some gold was stolen from Zimbabwe. So the report, the documentary is null and void, is useless. I don't want to say language here, what we should have done in Uganda. We should have, because the children are also listening to this platform.
Yeah, sure.
That, yes, I don't want to use a very bad language. Trisha would run away. That documentary is null and void. It's not, it doesn't help Africa at all. It is only for getting some green dollars that Mr. Chinono arrived and put in the pocket, but there's nothing he earned at all. It is for publicity stunts for CC guys to say they are selling diamonds. So are you accusing the British, or are you accusing them to Britain that they have sold diamonds? Or you are accusing them to where? It was not worth it. Look at our brother in Congo. He's telling you exactly what Qatar did. Look at so many. So Sam has been like that, but he's not an enemy to me. If I don't take it that I made the whole Rwanda. I told him that if it was Rwanda, you couldn't ask those questions. There are too many of them, which is very true. And even in Uganda, at President Museveni, you can't ask too many questions of that nature. He would tell you, so what is your problem? You know? So these are some of the things Rwanda has done very well. Edwin, take it from me, from the bottom of my heart. Paul is my friend forever. He will be. And he is the only person who has ever given me even some. He met me and said, how did you pay your bill here today? All the presidents see you when you are in exile, because Paul knows when you are in exile, you suffer. He found me somewhere and said, have you paid your bill today? Are they not going to lock you out of your house? These are the type of people we want. These people. Why that old man who died, the old man, Mugabe, he was very concerned about a Pan-African. When he sees you making points as a Pan-African, he gets concerned. How is that guy paying? He can even surrender the last coin of his and give you who is struggling for Africa. Those are the type of people we want on this continent. Thank you very much. And please, ladies and gentlemen on the platform, don't forget to tag each other and like each other and retweet, like me, like the host, like other speakers, so that tomorrow you don't miss very good topics. We have discussed Qatar, and this message is going to Qatar. We still want the tape of where Qatar investigated the 2,000 children killed, men and women who worked on the stadium. If we don't get it, then we don't want to listen to their documentary. Let's proceed now. Tisha, back to you.
Okay, our guest speakers, I'll ask you to be brief in your rebuttals. We're going to give you closing remarks at the end. So if you can just pinpoint the few remarks that you want to rebut so that we can allow our new speakers to speak. So we'll start with Baba Shona and then Vaombe. We'll go to Padare and Truth, and then we'll hear from Mobi and Ngonzi. If anybody else would like to be part of the, oh, sorry, Senzo, I forgot Senzo. Sorry, Senzo. I see you waving. Senzo, you can come in after Truths, and then anybody else who'd like to be part of the discussion, please go ahead and request the mic. Thank you.
And I give them, rebuttal should be 1 minute strictly, please. We are about to close down. We have 1 hour on the left hour at our hands. Rebuttal is 1 minute, please.
Gentlemen, I think you've heard Dr. Matsanga.
Yeah, thank you so much. I truly appreciate. So I want us to go into the documentary itself. Number one, for one to be a gold buyer, especially when you want to export it, there are things that you are required to do by the government of Zimbabwe through Ministry of Finance and its Department of Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. You have to have a minimum amount of 5 million United US dollars in your account. And that money you deposit to Fidelity printers and refineries. So that money, it's a surety that whenever you take gold in Zimbabwe, Even if you run away with it, the government of Zimbabwe can easily take that 5 million and compensate it to the gold that left the country if you don't pay it. Number two, you have to have also the minimum of $5 million. Now, this money is actually in your company account. That is the money that is going to be revolving, where it clearly shows that you are buying and selling the gold from Zimbabwe and selling outside Zimbabwe. So that matter is very clear. That's the reason why I said in my earlier submission, when gold leaving Zimbabwe, it's leaving Zimbabwe with a clear-cut transaction between the government of Zimbabwe and the gold dealer or the gold buyer, or in this case. Number two, if you go into the Al Jazeera documentary, there's interesting part, fellow Africans. The interesting part is that there's a lady who is a former FBI agent, and she's very clear in her submission in that documentary. She is saying, we want to make sure that Zimbabwe is out of international monetary system. And who controls international monetary system? This system is controlled by United States of America under their Treasury Department called OFAC. And that system, that department, it is the one that gave Zimbabwe sanctions. And guess what? In 2014, Zimbabwe, one of its bank was sanctioned and was fined by that organization more than $300 million. Standard Chartered Bank, which is a financial institution.
3.8 billion US dollars.
Thank you for correction. And then another bank also was also fined by this organization called OFAC, which is in America, an amount of more than $86 million for just making one transaction on behalf of Zimbabwean government. So fellow Africans, I want you to understand the animal that we are dealing with here. This documentary is not about exposing the so-called smuggling, but this documentary has got an agenda. The agenda is a geopolitics at hand, where the Americans are fighting with the Chinese and the Russians. You see right
Please
now...
prepare to land.
Thank you so much. I'm about to land. You see right now there is this vice president of United States of America. She's roaming around in Africa. What is the agenda? Is to milk Africa and vote for them and vote in favor of them in United Security Council. That is the agenda. Thank you so much, host and the co-host. I truly appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Baba Shona. I think I will not dwell much on that point that you have brought in. The only thing that I have is that Dr. Matsanga, you allowed the Brinks to get away with murder. He's coming on this platform and lying to us that Hope Watching on exposed corruption. There is no corruption that Hope Watching on exposed in terms of that drugs deal, that so-called drugs scandal. That drugs scandal was exposed by a journalist that is called Elias Mambo in Zimbabwe. That's the first journalist that actually broke the story. But Hope Watching he actually stole this story from Elias Mambo and started claiming the credibility of breaking this story, while Elias Mambo is the person that actually broke this story. So if anything, Hope Watching is actually a thief. He stole somebody's story, ran with it as if it was his, and a claim to be an investigative journalist. That's nonsense. We're supposed to actually grill that boy that is called Brinks. But anyway, let that lie. Number two, Bashon, I think you spoke quite well. These people are being misled. They need to know that there is no gold that leaves Zimbabwe without Zimra taking its dues, which is the tax revenue authority in Zimbabwe, without taking its dues. And there is no gold that leaves Zimbabwe without Ministry of Mines actually taking its dues through the royalties. There is no gold that leaves Zimbabwe without fidelity taking its dues. So these people must not mislead people when they come on these platforms, because when gold leaves the airport of Zimbabwe, it comes out with a clearance from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe and from all these agencies of government that they've taken their money. So in this case, these people must stop misleading people. Thank you.
Yes, please go ahead, Mofo.
Yeah, thank you again. I think everything has been said here. If the story is to be told, it is an African story to tell. It's not anyone's else story to tell. We have to mine our minerals. You can never judge Zimbabwe from a position where it is in any way or shape or form. A sanctioned country that is trying its best to survive. A sanctioned country that stood up to many fights with the Western world. First, it was the War of Independence. We went to war. Our forefathers were killed so that we can have a free Zimbabwe. We then want to fight for our land. We took back our land, which belonged to us. And still, they found a way of fighting us, giving those economic sanctions. So there's no one who can say and come up with any other solutions to come up and say, oh, there is corruption. You can never talk of corruption in the same sentence with sanctions when it comes to Zimbabwe. Because existence of sanctions actually increases the level of corruption anyway, because the resources become scarce. You have to survive through third ways, third ways, fourth people, trying to make your ends meet. We have to keep trying, but we cannot be apologetic as we stand with our country to say, look, to hell with our Jazeera. Many thanks.